everybody. Welcome to podcast episode 16. Got multiple guests today on the topic of broker-carrier relations. Let's get into it. What is going on, everybody?
Yo, dogs.
What's up, Alex and friends?
Alex, my guy.
Alex, my
What's
God.
going on? What's going on? I had a quick freeze there for a second. It's too many guests, man. It's too many guests. But let's have a quick introduction from everybody. We'll start with Shimmi. I guess that's the order left to right now.
How did Diaz get away with that?
I don't know. The pre-show is a different order, but let's just roll with this. So we'll start with the quick introduction from all the guests. Then we'll kick it off.
Shimmi Munson. I work for Strategic Transport, Inc. out of Portland area. I've been here for 10 years with the company. I do business development, carrier relations, customer relations, operations, and everything in between. I started, I wasn't prepared because we switched.
I know you thought Diaz would go first. We're having technical difficulties. This is the most people we've had on the show at one time. So.
Bates pulled a fast one on all of us.
Anyway, I've been doing this for 10 years with the company I'm at. I love it. I started out with a lie on my resume, which I'll tell you about in the next go around. And I'm made to be in this industry, and I love what I do. And I don't think I'd be anywhere else. I don't think I'd be happy anywhere else. Oh.
All right, Alex, what's up with you, man? What's your intro? What are you about? You are part of the sponsor, Click Logistics, so we'll put that out there.
I'm currently working with Click Logistics, but I started in the industry when I was 18. That was about 6 years ago, going on 7 now. Started off as a logistics coordinator for a co-manufacturer for Skinny Pop popcorn. Started off as a logistics coordinator, worked my way up to second shift supervisor. So I started off on the shipper side, and I just wanted to dive more into the trucking side of it. An opportunity came up at a brokerage, and I haven't looked back since. And I want to do this until I die or until I turn 85, whichever comes first.
Yeah, whichever comes first. Until you're 85, we'll see you broker and freight. What about you, Mr. Nick? What's going on? Sun's out, guns out. I don't know if the sun's out.
Oh, sun's out. Yeah. I'm Nick Bayless. I've been with Central now for a year. I've been in the brokerage industry for over 10 years. I do everything from customer acquisition to operations and everything in between. We own warehouses and we own our own trucks as well. So I pretty much do it all. And I started, over 10 years ago with a very similar company where I worked in a warehouse. I've loaded trucks, I've stacked pallets, I've brokered, I've done it all.
Yeah, you're also heavily involved in crypto behind the scenes, or maybe that was when the market was good. But without further ado, our mystery special guest, who I put on the screen by accident at the start, we have Mr. Karen Damley from These Lodges. What's going on with you, Karen? What's your story? What are you doing over there?
I'm doing my regular job, bartending. But anyways, my story is actually very similar to Nick's.
Are you a freight broker? Let's just get that out of the way for people.
No, I'm a double broker.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a difference. But no, if people have seen your earlier stuff, I started in the military because I got in trouble. And I went to school. Now I run a domestic freight brokerage in the U.S. I've been with a bunch of different brokerages over, 12 to 13 years now. So
there we go. A room full of brokers. I'm actually a broker now too. So we have all these brokers in one place. Let's kick off with
Alex and I have trucks.
Yeah, Alex and Nick have trucks, so it's kind of a weird
let's not get into that conversation. Let's just go with we all broker freight for the simplicity of it.
Yeah, no.
So let's jump into the first theme of the show. What was your first job in logistics? And again, we'll go left to right, starting with Shimmi.
So I actually had a friend who needed help. They sold beauty equipment and they had a warehouse and they needed some help. So I figured out how to do their UPS and FedEx shipping. And so I had a resume when I left there that said that I knew how to do BOLs and things like that. And so then from there, I was able to get a job at Traeger. And so I handled their road shows to all of the Costco's, and I did their residential deliveries as well, which actually shipped a grill to Al Gore back in the day. Randomly. But anyway,
a quick Al Gore reference. There we go.
It was really random and I was like, wait a second, what? But anyway,
Al Gore.
So then from there I added more to my resume, which everybody fluffs up their resume, right? It was easy. There's not really much skill in those positions, and you're not doing a ton. So I just beefed up my resume a little bit. I went with a company that helped me find. I was supposed to be at the company I'm at for a 6-week temp job, and they needed their largest account. They needed somebody to run that, and I ended up being able to do it and start doing it and doing it well, and start building relationships with 84 branches for this customer right away. And so my boss was like, you know what, let's just keep her on. And then now I'm the number 3 in the company behind the 2 owners, and I have my hands in everything. So it just went from having BOLs a little bit on my resume to then beefing it up a little bit, and then actually, learning more as I go. So it was on accident.
They always say, kind of fake it till you make it. If you don't know how to do it, figure it out as you go. So
yeah.
I mean, Alex, where was your first job? What was your first introduction to logistics?
I started off with a medium-sized shipper out of the south side of Chicago called Assemblers Incorporated. We were a co-manufacturer and logistics partner for Skinny Pop Popcorn, Amplify snack brands. Honestly, I just needed a job that would help me pay for college. As you guys all know, it's expensive, and I had time in the mornings after soccer practice and after boxing training and stuff like that. In the afternoons, I took a second shift job. I was bilingual. A lot of my forklift drivers were of Hispanic descent. They're like, hey, work in the office, you could coordinate it. Started off as a window clerk, then just kind of worked my way up until a logistics coordinator. I was handling most of the inbound. I'd like to say by the time I left, I was handling 90% of the inbound stuff. And then the opportunity came to go work for a brokerage, and I took it. I was always working with a good broker, and he told me, he's like, if there's ever an opportunity for you to jump, do it. And I love it. I love trucking. I fell in love with it. Now I'm at Click Logistics, an asset-based brokerage. I'm the business development manager here. I love it. It's some challenges. There's days that honestly, I took some of the stuff that I had at other companies for granted, but you live and you learn. We're trying to truly shape and do something special here. So I'm grateful to be a part of this process.
So we got the true starter from the bottom. Now you're here type of story with you. What about Nick? What was your first job in logistics? Your first introduction?
Technically, when I was in high school and college, I was driving box trucks for a barbecue company. And
yeah, I remember this.
Yeah, I hated it, man. I was a server too, and a bartender and all that kind of crap. But then I had a buddy in the military who got out and was working for CH, and then he went and started his own brokerage at an asset carrier that was local to us, and I just begged this guy for a job forever. I'm just like, I knew a bit about trucking. My family had been in trucking. And my grandma always told me if I ever got to become like an actual truck driver, she'd break my legs. So I became a broker, and I got a job over there and never looked back.
There you go. I mean, yeah, the truck driving career is kind of not looked at in the best light, especially in traditional families. So, I mean, maybe she saved you some heartache on the road, man.
Yeah, I think so.
What about you, Mr. Damley? What was your first introduction? I think I remember the answer to this, but wasn't it like a certain three-letter company?
Yeah, well, no, not really. No, my start was in the military. I guess I can just remove this because I'm already banned again, right? So,
It's him.
anyways,
I mean, I like your shirt, man. The shirt's really on brand for what you've done in the logistics community.
You need one that says LinkedIn user.
Yeah, maybe I'll start selling shirts and hats. You know, it seems to be the going rate for how you become a successful broker nowadays. So, my start was I got busted for underage drinking in the military, and they sent me to restriction, and then they put me in the logistics department. So, I never thought I would end up in logistics. It was a punishment, but almost 15 years later, here's where I sit.
Yeah, I mean, nobody that's in logistics, I would say probably 95% of people in logistics. I mean, we weren't all 5-6 years old. I mean, I'm going to get into trucking when I'm older. So, I mean, that's pretty common.
I mean, I played with toy trucks as a kid, but I don't think I was in school for psychology, and here I am brokering. So,
where's the cigars at, Darren? Where's the cigars at?
I'm in my house, Troy. You don't smoke cigars in the house, but I definitely.
You do in Serbia because everybody just smokes inside everywhere. So
my landlord might have an issue with that, but all I can say is cheers to underage drinking, because without it, I wouldn't have a career. So, you know.
Jesus. Nobody on the show condones underage drinking, by the way.
No,
that's a joke.
do not condone
it. But let's get away from underage drinking.
I might land you a job.
Let's get away from the topic of underage drinking, and let's get into today's main topic, which is broker-carrier relationships. So, how do you guys go about building strong relationships with carriers? What does your kind of process look like? Are you reaching out to them? Are you just kind of moving freight when somebody sticks out and does a good job? You keep up with it. What's your guys' strategy, for building those carrier relationships?
I think there's a lot.
I guess we'll go left to right. We'll just do this left to right thing, and
sure.
We'll start with Shimmi again.
The most important thing for me with how I work personally is my carrier relationships, because obviously that's who moves my stuff. So our carriers have been with us. Most of us have been with us since 2001, since we started. We keep our carriers long term. I fight for my carriers as much as I fight for my customers. I make sure that we're really fair. A lot of times, like right now, the market is just shit, and our margins on some of the stuff might have to be lower, and I'm okay with that. Is to make sure that the carriers are getting fair rates, because obviously we all know the market does this, and our carriers are extremely flexible. So we know that there's going to be times when they're making a ton, and there's going to be times when they're not making a ton. We make sure that we're all honest about it. We're on the same page. We know that it's a give and take. And so as long as we are really honest with where we're at, we can, we make sure that our rates are consistent for our customers, and that we're working on the back end so our customers aren't really taking hits if we can manage it. So we're keeping our customers long term, which is keeping the carriers with long term customers as well, and they like that. The carriers that we work with, they prefer to work with us over brokers, because we do keep them covered with freight because of the way that they work. If they have to do something, for example, I had a carrier the other day who said, don't charge me storage. I don't care. He said, just don't charge me storage. I'll have it for 2 weeks, whatever, do this. And I said, no, that's not right. And even if a carrier says I don't need this cost, he went, same carrier, actually, he went over and picked up something that a customer had forgotten to put on the truck. So the next morning he went over himself and took one of his trucks, and he picked it up, and he said, don't worry about it. It was 2 hours of my time. I'm not worried. And I was like, no, that's not right. And I sent him, more money, because even if they don't think that it's not worth it, they're working, and I'm fully aware that they're doing the work and they need to get paid. And so I make sure that I'm really advocating for my carriers just as much as I am the customers always.
I think the end of that story too plays a big role. I mean, I was a carrier for years, and when you work with the same broker for a long time, it's always good to be like, hey, I don't need today's detention, or you try to show that you care also about the relationship as a carrier. And I think the focus is always on the broker to do the right thing in every situation. But if you're a carrier, you also got to think, do I want to build a relationship with this broker? Can I say, hey, you know what, that 2 hours of detention on the 18th load we ran this month, I don't need it. You guys can keep it. But that's the thing. The broker in that situation will come back and be like, I'll send it to you guys. That's always a good system.
It's the same, like, they'll say, I'll have a carrier, and most of my freight, I don't have to quote it out. My carriers, part of what I do is manage their costs. So I don't have to pre-quote it. I do have a couple that obviously I have to get approved, but the majority of them I don't. And so I already know what my cost needs to be. So sometimes they'll say, hey, I can do it. I'll say, I have 12 feet to here if I'm doing a partial or whatever. And they'll say, I can do it for this much. And so I'll even come back sometimes and be like, how about $300 more than that? Here you go. And it's because if I'm keeping, if I have my margins that I need to hit and I can be fair, I know that they're trying to get low because they think that they need to, but I'm going to do my best to make sure that they're not really getting screwed in an environment that's not friendly to what they're doing. So,
and I mean, I had this conversation with Nick back when we had our episode where Nick agreed, like, I'm going to pay that extra $100, $200. I'm not going to go out of my way to pay like a carrier I use a lot, but if there's an issue, if there's something, $100, $200 to a carrier, that means a lot. And, if a broker's willing to say, here's an extra $100, you guys did a good job, I mean, the carrier's going to remember that. So, Mr. Diaz, what about you? What's your kind of approach with your carriers and your network? How do you go about that relationship building process?
Well, and a lot of this experience comes from directly speaking with carriers, with drivers, with some of these like fleet managers that would come in. When I was on the shipper side, it's about finding stuff consistently where they want to run, right? I'm not going to be offering a carrier that likes to run out to the West Coast. I'm not going to offer them my Pennsylvania load because it just doesn't coordinate with how they like to operate. You get what I'm saying? So I think it's just finding out what they like to run, realistically where they like to run. Honestly, I know I have some carriers that are more expensive, some newer equipment, and maybe they might be better for high value freight, but I might have some carriers that operate with older equipment, and I might need to send them in on those like cheaper rates, but because their cost to operate is a little lower, I know that I'm keeping them profitable. And just learning, really, it goes a long way, learning who you're talking to, who your point of contact is there, and just figuring out how they like to operate. I have carriers that constantly need me to send them stuff. I have carriers that are like, dude, when we're working together, I just, just remind me what the pickup numbers are. Here's a tracking link. I don't need you to really call me. And it's just figuring out. There's people. You're working with different people at the end of the day. No two people are the same, so no two carriers are going to be exactly the same. And it's just about being honest with them too. Like how to back off of what Shimmi said. Right now it's not a carrier-friendly market. It's no mystery. But it's being honest with them. It's like, hey, look, on this lane, I can pay you more. On this one, honestly, this is all I have in it. Can you meet me some way? I got to show. At the end of the day, they know that you're in this to profit too. And I'm happy that some of the carriers that I've been able to have some of those conversations with, they're in the Chicagoland area. Chicago is a perfect freight hub. A lot of companies are out here. So I have lunch with some of these guys. I'm able to break bread with some of these guys. And at the end of the day, they also want to, I mean, we've become a little invested in each other's lives, That's part of the carrier relations that you want to have as much as you want to have those with the customer relations. So I want to be able for my, and again, I love my Serbian companies. A lot of my carriers here that I've met are predominantly, they're predominantly Balkan. So, I love my brates. My brates take care of me. And they take care of I take care of the brates take care of the carnal,
I'll kind of give you some info on that as a carrier. My whole career becoming a broker recently, the sentence "no two carriers are the same." It's really like I never understood it because I've been a carrier my whole career, and like I don't know, I answer emails and like my trucks are where I say they are, and it's like it didn't seem that difficult, And I've been a broker now, and I've dealt with these carriers, and some of them are just like insane. Some carriers I never understood, because I was a carrier. It's not difficult, right? Like you get an email in your email, and then you read it, and then you just reply to it, and it's like it seems pretty simple, right? If just
to
like
piggyback off of that, I mean, we're all in this to really make money, right? There are carriers that have been out here that apply a different business model that have direct freight. That carrier is not going to operate the same as a carrier that, you know, is in it to chase the spot market, which isn't a bad thing. There's a reason it's the spot market. They can make really good margins. It's a sustainable business model to a degree, but you just got to understand that. Like, for example, when I was a carrier sales rep, I would much rather those work with the spot market carrier versus once I have to do like account management. I was looking more for carriers that, you know, have dedicated freight, because that really helps me lower costs, if that makes sense. So it's just having a mix of that, understanding it. I know carrier A is going to operate way different than carrier B, and that's just something you need to understand. But I get it. I mean, it's coming from like the shipper side. I mean, if it gives you a little bit of insight of, you know, I remember there was this, I was watching it on a TV show. I forgot what it was. It's like you bring blind guys to an elephant. They feel it. They don't see it because they're touching something. You know, they don't know what an elephant is. They think it's a little piece. So when you step out, like me as a shipper, I'll be honest, when I was first learning, I used to think that whether you were going Chicago to Atlanta, York, Pennsylvania to Los Angeles, California, I thought that it was like one single rate. I thought that it was like, you know, I thought like it was $2.50, and that was like going anywhere, you know? Didn't matter where from. Once I was like a month in, I learned that's absolutely not the reality. But it's like, you know, you're 18. You don't know this. You just know that trucking drivers, most of my experience with trucking companies came from friends that are trucking company, you know, that are truckers.
Oh, yeah. I mean, dude, you have those guys that go on blind interview people on the street and ask them, what do you think the cost of a full truck from Los Angeles to New York is? And you'll be able to say $70,000. So, I mean, the general public doesn't really understand trucking unless you've been in it.
And that's the crazy thing too. Like coming from the shipper side, I see the value of some of this product, and it just mesmerizes me how sometimes you're like arguing.
Yeah, it's like an $800 load, man. Like the truck gets $800 and you're shipping like $250,000 of product. Like,
yeah, like retail product, you know, probably not worth that to insurance, but retail product like Skinny Pop popcorn. Again, crazy what a truckload was worth. Crazy what I was paying for it to go down to Georgia. Just
it makes no sense. Yeah. Well, I mean, Nick, what about you? How do you go about that relationship building with carriers?
So I started in carrier sales way back when, and we actually recently just hired a carrier sales guy. So yeah, and we're hiring all positions, but yeah, we do our best to really use carriers that we've been working with for a while and keep the relationships good. It's very easy. Anybody, you know, any broker can go on the board and find a random person here or there and
just find a truck from the load board. Yeah. Just
yeah.
Be like, oh, that guy's hauling my freight today.
Yeah. And anybody can do that. And I guarantee you that, you know, when people do that, and don't get me wrong, that's, you know, that's part of the game. But you know, that's when you're going to run into road bumps and problems and things like that. When you have been using the same person on, you know, the same freight, it doesn't have to be the same lane, but you know, if they know, okay, it's coming out of this facility, I know at least these guys over here know what they're doing. I kind of know the receivers. Okay. They know what they're doing. It's easier on everybody. You know, it's hard
even
to use.
If you want to just piggyback off that as a carrier, like I think it's easier to work with the same broker all the time, right? So
exactly.
I mean, I think both sides need to understand the value. Like I want to cover my truck with the guy that I've done 900 loads with over the past 2 years before I want to go on the spot market and find the guy who's going to sell me, you know, that missed appointment, first come, first serve. So I think it should be like that on both sides, right? Like, you know what you're getting into, you know, the person you're going to deal with, you know, they're going to answer, you know, the phones. The
and most importantly,
I mean, that's
you know,
the value in the industry. So.
If there's a problem, you know that they're going to deal with it correctly, instead of some random person who's just going to be like, well, whatever, I'll just, you know, I don't care.
And I think
we got Nick with the professional mic and gaming chair, and I'm getting roasted for my setup. But so like I never show my mic. Like I have a good mic, but I never felt the need to put it like in my nose while I'm talking to people.
Yeah, but you don't sound like the white Morgan Freeman like Nick.
No, piggyback off of what Nick said, you know,
All right, Nick. So you think, you know, you're obviously your goal is to set out to use the same people as often as possible.
Sure.
And I mean, we already talked about this. You have no issue paying somebody, you know, that extra $100-200. If it's somebody you know, if it's freight that is a little sensitive.
If there's a legitimate reason, honestly, and I can, yeah.
I mean,
yeah, of course. I mean, yeah, you're not going to go out of your way, but
yeah,
to a degree too, you know.
So let's go with this, Mr. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, my bad. But no, to a degree there too, you know, it's also important to remember, you know, like Click, it just started operating its brokerage side. We've had our authority since 2020, but we just started operating it just recently. When you're starting out, at least you got to remember that in order to build that relationship, it starts somewhere, you know. So you got to be willing to take a chance sometimes off of somebody in the spot board, and then you find out they're really only in the spot board because something came up for whatever reason. Their regular guy wasn't able to get him out of that spot. Guess what? Now you start remembering that guy. You start building it. You know, you as much as it is relationship.
That's how you find people. That's how you build relationships. You find someone on the load board. You do good business with them. 1-2 loads. You say, hey, email me next time. Let's take it out of here. You know, you keep in touch. But let's hear from our senior double broker, freight broker over here, Mr. Aaron Damley. Yeah, what is your approach to carrier relationships?
I mean, for me, it's simple. It's just transparency. They always.
What makes you transparent? What makes you transparent? What does transparency mean to you?
It just depends on what we're talking about. I mean, from a volume standpoint, typically you do an RFQ or RFP that you bid with the customer, and you might build a great relationship over a year or two where you've just knocked it down and you have the same freight all the time. But sometimes it doesn't always work out like that. And if you get the benefit of the doubt with the customer, it would be me going back to the carrier and being like, hey, man, we got to meet him at this rate or we're going to lose these lanes. So, which is a shitty conversation to have.
Yeah, but that's the right way to do it, right? I mean, when I was a carrier, if the broker told me, I mean, this is the problem though. So carriers are always skeptical, and whatever a broker will say, unless you know that, like, you know each other. But if you tell like a random carrier you've never talked to, like, oh, we have to be at, let's say, 1,200 to win this freight, they're like, oh, this guy has $1 million in that load. That's just the price he's telling me, you know.
Well, you're about to see it more because you're a broker now.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. I am seeing it more, and I'm getting those funny quotes where it's like, I'll tell somebody, hey, I could do $2,000. They're like, oh man, I just need 3,500. I'm like, yeah. Oh, okay, cool, yeah. Like I also need 3,500 too, but here we are. Like this is where we're at. So
if I made $1,500 on every load, do you think I would still be at the fucking office after lunch? Like, come on, let's use some common sense.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, that segues us into that whole thing. I mean, because the focus is always on the broker, right? And I was a carrier forever, and you know, every carrier's focus is on the broker. And I think, you know, as brokers, and I think, you know, as a community, that carriers need to look inward a little bit. Now that I've dealt with them, like the randomness, and I've talked to hundreds of thousands of carriers. Like carriers need to point the finger at themselves a little bit and like look at their own operations and how they communicate. And then they need to sit down and be like, okay, am I a white glove service? Am I a top tier? Do I do everything the best that I possibly can to ask for these rates that are much higher than market? And I'm pretty sure most of them do not. And that's the thing. Carriers, like brokers, have all the money. They're stealing money. But then the carrier doesn't answer the phone or the email. And if you call them and say, hey, I have 5 of the same load every Monday. And he's like, I don't care. I'm just going to go to the DAT. And it's like, okay, like I think carriers need to do some self-reflection a little bit. And so I mean, let's get into that. What
this is where your mirror works. Because some carriers, hate to say it, are just rip every dime I can. And you're a spot load carrier. That's just what you are. Just like you can be a spot load broker. Like, you know, if you're not knowledgeable and all you care about is, oh, just let me rip whatever I can off, you're always going to be in that spot market. You have to know what you're doing, which is, you know, I could harp on the weekend broker class, but that's another show.
Yeah, and sorry, Shimmy, I'm sorry to say every comment that I put up completely blocks you. But like, so Troy has this saying, so I'll explain it very quickly. Troy's saying is, so let's say you post a load for $1,000, and then a carrier calls you and says, I need like 3,000, and he'll be like, well, I have 2 goldfish, and then the carrier will say, what does that have to do with this conversation? And he said nothing. I thought we were just talking about like irrelevant things that like don't have anything to do with booking a load, and I always like that one.
I mean,
But
here's the thing though, because I've noticed it.
let me just kick the topic off so we can all get into it with like a clean focus. So, what do you guys think carriers need to be doing differently and to build the relationships with the brokers? Because I think it's always focused on the brokers, but what should carriers be doing differently, like to build the relationships with the brokers?
Stop being hot-headed. Jesus.
Emotional.
Well, after having, I just actually had this exact thing happen. I had a carrier that we've been using again since 2001. We had these weekly milk runs that they've done for many years. And the customer finally came back. Mind you, they haven't asked for a rate reduction.
Milk run thing. What is a milk run? Because I've run into this like 3 different times, and I always envision milk, but then somebody told me it's just where there's a lot of deliveries.
So we have a lot of our customers are manufacturers, and we bring in their raw materials from different vendors. So once a week, or however many times a week, you have trucks that just go pick up from a vendor, and then they bring it in, and it's repetitious, and so they just do it, every week or every.
So like a repeating type.
Yeah, like a dedicated lane, or
that is, yeah. So it's just a dedicated truckload. So every Monday you have a driver picking up, and they're delivering every specific day to the receiver, and it's just every week it's the exact same thing, which helps the carrier because that driver knows that he's going to have those loads every week, right? So it's a benefit to them. But what ends up happening,
we got some support. The Shimmy support. Yeah, I'm sorry. Every time I bring like the comment on.
But anyway, so I had a carrier. So what happened is the customer finally came back, and they haven't asked for a rate reduction for a long time. And we went back to the carrier and we said, hey, we don't have a choice. We have to have a rate reduction, and here's where we need to be. Luckily, with the majority of our customers, they'll tell us where they need to be. And the carrier didn't believe it. And I think that they were set in a pre-COVID mindset. And so he didn't believe it.
Cool. Looks like we got a frozen Shimmy.
After many years, because they didn't trust that what we were saying was accurate. And I think on one of those trucks, we were making like $150. That's it. So it's not like it's, it's more about servicing the customer, because we do a lot of truckloads for that customer anyway, and LTL. And so those milk runs are really about helping the carriers get their trucks where they need to be positioned or back out.
It's a map placement freight,
Yeah. And so, but they didn't trust that the rates that we were giving were where they needed to be at. And so we actually lost those lanes to another broker because the carrier didn't trust us that we were being honest. And it's like, we've never lied to you before. And so it's kind of hard, because we have to fight this mentality with these carriers that we're untrustworthy. But if you've not done anything to be untrustworthy, and other people in the industry are, why are we suffering when we're the ones that have been making sure that for 2 decades you're getting freight at fair rates, right? So I don't know. It's I don't know how to. I wish I knew how to make the carriers trust us a little bit more. And I can just continue to do what we do, and give them the money that I can in certain areas and as much freight as possible, and continue to work on the relationship. But it really hurts them when they do things like that. That was real.
I mean, that kind of brings Troy's comment. The summary of this comment is basically, a carrier can't start too low. I mean, I was a carrier. You have to quote kind of high on the high end of things. But carriers will just come in with like unrealistic numbers, like Troy's saying, like if the lane's supposed to pay 2.5, a carrier will be like, oh, I need 4,000. And as a broker, you can't exactly go to the customer with that number. And like you said, carriers kind of do it to themselves when they quote too high, or when they don't trust the broker. And I mean, I understand the business. Like I said, I've been a carrier. I understand like the quoting process for being a carrier. But at the same time, I think me and Darren talked about this previously, where if you come in $500 too short or too high, like on the market quote, I'm going to not really trust you anymore, because it kind of looks to me like you don't understand what that market's going for either.
Especially when it's short, like with all
when it's short,
with all the fraud and everything. I'm like, okay, you're just
if you're coming at 500 under market rate, that's going on the rail, that's going somewhere else.
I mean, usually we had it kind of the experience the other day. We had to go to the spot board, not something we do too often, but when we went on the spot board, we had a guy immediately say at the very first rate, obviously as a broker, you're going to post a little lower than what you would like to be at. It's a tactic that we all use. But when he's immediately, my first price, he said yes. I was like, something doesn't sound right here. And you go in,
but as a carrier, trust me, as a carrier, that's the worst feeling in the world too. When a broker tells you what's your rate, and then you quote them like, I don't know, let's use like 1,800. They're like, yeah, sure, sending it over. You're like, crap, man. I probably could have got $200 more bucks on that. Yeah.
Here's the thing, though. It's usually, and again, you're asking like, what does a carrier need to do kind of to improve the relationships? Is just be honest. If it's a carrier, let's just say again, and this is coming off of the spot board, right? If you want to really start like, hey, I can trust this guy, is just be like, hey, this is the number I'd like to be at. How close can you get there? And if not, like, what kind of commodity is too, ask that too, because sometimes I've had guys, that we've worked in that I've tried doing, like when I was in carrier sales, they tried doing the same rate for a different load. So I had same thing. It was coming out of Chicago. One was a high value load. One was a normal load. Obviously the high value load, I'm going to pay a lot more than I'm going to pay, a regular, like standard kind of load. And it's asked that, hey, last week I got this out of there. I think this is a fair rate. And then the broker could say, okay, I agree with you there.
Oh, yeah. I went through this very extensively on one of my shows when I was still a carrier. And somebody had asked me the question, what tools do you use as a carrier for pricing? And at the end of the day, I told them the tool that I use and the tool that most people use is their brain and their history. Like, what did they do last week? What did they do the week before? What have they historically been moving that lane at? Because, I mean, unless it's like that 2021 situation where we all woke up one day and freight was $9 a mile, it's not going to be like that, right? Like if I ran the load Ohio to Indiana power only last week for 900, this week I'm going to ask for 1,000 and be like, okay, that's what I ran it for last week. If you want to do 900, I'm cool with that, And as a carrier, like, what pricing tools do you really have? You realistically should just be you're just in the market. You're playing in the market. The market, As a broker, it's a different story because you guys have to quote customers. You have to know a lot more things when you're coming to a customer with the price. But as a carrier, your lane rates are just, what was it last week, man? Just make it simple for yourself, right?
Yeah, but I mean, that changes, right? Because obviously as a carrier, you're not going to be the same price in March that you're going to be in November, depending on the area, right?
Yeah, because that's seasonal, right? I mean, you got to know you're getting into the winter season, the storm season. I mean, yeah, dude, there's other. I'm not just
but there's that change, and we all understand it, right? Same thing. There's a season stuff to it. But what I'm saying here is, what kind of freight are you hauling? Like me, for example, when I was loading out on the shipper side, my loads rarely ever were more than 20,000 pounds. 22,000 pounds was the heaviest I ever loaded a guy when I was on the shipper side.
Yeah,
and I know in the summer that's very desirable on a.
Yeah, but in the winter that's dangerous, bro.
That's dangerous, exactly. You're coming into the high winds. So while everybody was getting cheap outbound, while we were getting cheap outbound to like the south towards Georgia, everybody wanted those loads. I remember carriers would come up to me and ask me direct, hey, how can I get some of these? How can I get some of these loads? And I would just tell them, hey, honestly, man, I'm like, dude, we deal with the broker. Here's his info. I could put in a good word for you with this guy and tell him, hey, he says he's here. But it's not until I came onto the brokerage side, I'm like, okay, this makes sense. They're coming down here. So it's just knowing that seasonality, but being honest about it, like informing the brokers. Sometimes a lot of these brokers aren't coming from like a shipper side, carrier side, and it's just letting that carrier sales guy know, hey, realistically, I need $300 more because these are the risks that I'm incurring at this time. And as a reasonable person, you're going to be, okay, that makes sense, but not just quoting me $2,000 more because it's windy and it might.
No, dude, if you're a carrier, I've said this and I'll die on this hill. If you're a carrier and you're asking for like more than 200 from the posted rate, you better have a reason like to back that up, right? Like you better be like, okay, I know it's posted for 900. I need 1415 because you have a 45,000 pound load. It's going through the mountains. It's a West Virginia lane. What do you expect me to do? It's going to destroy my truck going from, let's say, the Carolinas up to Ohio. Like you have a heavy load. It's going through the mountains. I'm going to need some more money. But if you're going to come in and be like, I need 1,500 as a carrier on a 900 posted load, and that's all you say, and then you wait, I mean, it doesn't make you look like you understand why you need it.
It sounds like
you always have to have a reason.
Yeah. And that's a respectable scale. You know, when you have a number, I mean, I've heard it you before say it, you know, when you go in and you quote, you have a number in your head, right? Before you even start, there's a minimum.
You have a high number and a low number. You always have to know what do you want and what are you willing to take at the worst, and then you land somewhere in between those two. Right?
Exactly. You know, same thing here as a broker. You have, let's just say again, I post a load. Let's say I have 1,300 in the load, right? I realistically want to be paying out in between 900 to 1,100, right? That's kind of the sliding scale I have. Can I go to 1,200, 1,250 if I have to? Yeah, I'll do it. But it's also not a sustainable market. So that's just how carriers have an operating cost. There is an operating cost for brokerages, right? I mean, I know the overhead is low.
That's going to be an unpopular opinion from the carrier team, but it's very true.
But it's very true.
I don't care if it's unpopular or not. It's right.
It's right, yeah.
It's the truth, you know. I mean, consider factoring. I mean, some of the bigger brokerages, the way they work, they pay out their carrier sales guy $10, $20 for booking a loser load. So if you're already booking a break-even load, sometimes you're absorbing that.
Oh yeah, Darren explained this to me. Like if you book a break-even load, you actually lost money because you have, you know, your TMS, you have your employee costs, this cost. Like if you book a break-even load, it's actually always a loss on the.
Yeah, a break-even load, it just depends on the lane. Some break-even loads, you realistically a break-even, even though you have 1,200 in it, that break-even could realistically be 1,100 or. You know, it could be $800 you're losing at that rate. It just depends on what the overhead is. Just like a carrier, we have operating costs, you know.
I mean, Franklin out here hauling $5 a mile, man. This guy's living the dream. Enjoying like $5 a mile over the weekend
all day.
Take that while you can, man. You gotta. And again, I'm not against it. If there's a moment as a carrier, and I tell my carriers all the time too, it's like, hey. If honestly, if I have this new opportunity, I have this new lane, but you have a better price coming out of like, let's say Chicago to Atlanta, let's say I offer you $2 a mile, but the next broker next to me is offering you, I don't know, let's just say $2.25. If you're telling me, hey, I'd rather take the $2.25, by all means, take it. I'm not going to be offended. At the end of the day, you have an operating cost. You're in this to make money. Go ahead and take it. You're being honest with me. That way I know to not pursue and not be given some hope that, hey,
carriers and brokers both need to understand each other. You know, like if you're not running contracted, dedicated freight, I encourage every broker to take, you know, the cheaper option in certain situations. And I encourage the carrier to take the higher paying offer in most situations. If you're not, you know, locked into stuff, if you're not making those deals where I'm going to pick up this load every Friday, you know, this kind of thing.
The heart of this question comes down to communication.
Yeah.
Okay, so Nick, let's get into you. What is communication? Is that your top, you know, room for improvement? Is that the thing that makes a carrier stand out to you?
It has been the cornerstone issue of this industry since I've started. It is communication.
And it's insane though. Now that I'm a broker, it's insane to me that a carrier doesn't answer an email very quickly. Like it just doesn't make sense to me. Now I'm a broker. I understand it. So when carriers are out there like, we're the best carrier in the world, we're the best, like let's see, man. Let's go run a load together. Let's see how you're
going back to this whole white glove pricing thing. You know, we run, now that you're a broker, you know, you run into these carriers on the boards that are trying to you know, give you a reason why they want so much money. It's funny because a lot of the freight that I'm doing and some of my coworkers are doing right now are like box truck and sprinter freight. And believe it or not, there are box truck and sprinter companies that operate way better than large van carriers. They have like the best ops teams. They're, you know, they let you know where they are by the minute. they take pictures of everything without you even having to ask.
Mhm.
So yeah, having a justification for a high price better come with the best service in the world. And unfortunately, 9 times out of 10, it doesn't. So that's why brokers typically go with the cheapest option. And yeah, does that come back to bite brokers in the ass from time to time? Yeah, it does. But you have to understand, when you're picking out of a pool of, carriers that generally overall are just going from one load to the next, they don't care. What do you have to choose from? So yeah, this is part of the whole crux of the industry right now hinges on the fact of people not being able to communicate.
Yeah,
and we just need better communication.
And all we're talking about, right? Just like all we're talking about here is answering an email within 5 minutes of receiving it.
Yeah.
And like maybe sending an update to a broker like, hey, I'm 2 hours from the delivery, or I'm 2 hours from the pickup, before they ask you. I mean, those are like the simplest things to make you stand out as a carrier.
Or answering a cell phone.
Yeah,
that
or just
is
picking
with
up
you
the
at all
phone,
times.
yeah.
I mean, being honest, we're in logistics. I joke about this with all my carriers when we're first starting to build out the relationship. It'll be like 10 p.m. Ever since I've been 18 working in this industry, I don't turn off my phone. If my phone is dead, I think that I'm dying and I need to go find somewhere to plug in. And for some carriers, sometimes when like they give you a weekend team, or they told me, yeah, I'm 24/7, you call and it's just something that's like very important and they don't answer it, kind of deters that broker carrier relationship, because people will tell you, yeah, I'm going to call you, like a carrier will call you at 10 and you better answer the phone. But if you're just calling for a simple like, hey, I need you to do this, can you pull over, can your driver pull over to confirm something for me, and it's like you're insulting them, when you call
No,
them.
I mean, dude, but that, as a carrier, dude, like that is something kind of wild to ask. Like, can your driver pull over? Like, bro, I mean,
And it's never,
probably
again, I
not,
understand.
to be honest. If a broker asked me that, I would tell them, no, he can. He's driving the truck. If there's like, if I didn't make a mistake, right? So if I get loaded and I send them the BOL, which I always did because it just takes off, all the liability for me. Like, here's your BOL. Are we good to go? Yes, we are. Okay, now I'm on the road. I mean, if a carrier skips that step, and then there's a problem, and then you ask them, can you pull over? I could see that, But asking a carrier to tell their driver to pull over is kind of wild.
No. And that's the thing, though, too. There's nuances. It's not all one size fits all. Usually, if I'm asking you to pull over, it's like, hey, it turns out, because it happens. I've been in that shipper side. It could be that they loaded you with the wrong purchase order.
Oh, yeah.
And at that point, but when they take it's like, no, I'm delivering it. Well, that's where you have to kind of let them know, look.
Oh, hey, yeah, that's when you're just doing bad business, bro. You're just like stealing the load. Like,
yeah, it's like, hey, I need you. And I'm not telling you pull over right now. I'm telling you, hey, can your driver pull over at the next mile marker that's safe for him, the next exit, the next, whatever it is that it is, the oasis, whatever it is that he could pull over safely. Can he pull over? We need to check something with the load. We'll get him back on the road. I'm not going to penalize him for being late if this results in him being late, because at the end of the day, I just
want to check, is my freight there? I want to check, is everything okay? It's a normal thing if there's problems going on.
And
but let's get into this. Maybe we'll have Nick read it because he has a radio voice, apparently. If you could read this out loud for everybody, I would appreciate it. And then once you're finished reading it out loud, if you guys could explain to me what this even means, maybe I'm just like not understanding it correctly.
Eric says, what are your thoughts on more people using technology over taking out things?
Yeah, well, taking out what things, bro?
Yeah.
If you could elaborate on that, I mean,
what are the things we're taking out? But this is the best.
So like AI type of stuff.
But yeah, like what, Shimmy? You have an idea what it like taking out what?
I'm wondering if he's talking about like AI. You know how like companies like C.H. Robinson are freaking firing everybody, and now they just have AI. I'm not sure if that's what he's talking about.
Okay, we'll leave Eric to hopefully reply back to what he wanted to say. But
yeah, elaborate.
Mr. Damley, are you gonna side with communication? Is that the easiest thing a carrier can improve in their day-to-day operations?
Hang on, let me like Nick. No, man, I'm old school. Like, I mean, you're gonna get it straight from me. Just stop being a bitch. Like, if problems arise, just fucking tell me. I mean,
Thank you. Yeah.
Like
say something.
I'm not going to cut your head off because you have a and brokers too. Brokers do the same thing. Like a shipper will change an appointment and they don't let anybody know, or like, because they're just, oh, I got to take this load, or oh, I'm going to make the customer unhappy, and then you screw everybody. Just don't be afraid of adversity.
I tell all my carriers that I don't care if it's good or bad, you need to tell me beforehand, because whatever it is, I have to figure out the solution, and I'm the one that has to contact my customer. So I don't care what it is. You need to let me know. Yeah.
And you're the one getting your ass ripped.
Let me figure it out.
There's the thing. So there's the thing, right? There's a lot of bad brokers out there. Nobody can deny that. Nobody's sitting here can look me
there's
straight.
A lot of bad carriers.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just wait a second. We're getting there. But just to start this conversation, right? Like, nobody can straight face tell me that there's not like a bazillion terrible brokers out there that carriers have to deal with, and that are like just purely lying to carriers. So
right, and that's why I sit where I'm at, because I read their stuff and I'm like, fuck you, dude. Like, no, you're guiding people. I have a bad name because idiots like you do what you're doing.
But now there's the flip side to that. So, like, with that being said, that there's a bunch of bad brokers, right? So carriers are skeptical of every broker in the world, which is completely fine. I can very much understand a random carrier on the low board being skeptical of any broker, any one of us, because there's just a bunch of clowns out there. Now, somebody said it's a good thing that there's a bunch of clowns out there, because it makes the good broker stand out, and it lets us, command better pricing and this kind of stuff. So there is a good part to having a bunch of bad brokers out there. And in the same conversation, there are so many bad carriers out there. And every carrier that's sitting in the chats and sitting and flaming brokers all day. Okay, you might be a good carrier. Like, I was a great carrier. I've always been a great carrier. Now that I've been a broker, I can tell you with all certainty, there are pretty much every carrier that calls you is pretty nuts. Like,
the ratio is pretty
so many
skewed.
Bad carriers out there. So for every bad broker you deal with, there's that equally as many bad carriers, and carriers don't understand that. They don't understand that. And I didn't understand that till I became a broker. So
they're not carriers. That's where we're wrong. There's so much fraud right now.
The fraud is man. Come on, the fraud is not
carriers. Alex, those guys are not carriers. There's so much bullshit out there. But
you're vetting them. We're all vetting them. It's not like we have a lot of tools at our disposal. It's kind of hard to sneak
I don't
through
care
the
how many tools you have. You can't always catch it. It's not foolproof. I don't give a shit what you.
Yeah, criminals, and people doing shady stuff are always gonna find a way. I mean, that's true.
I think to kind of piggyback off of there being bad apples. There's bad apples everywhere, and sometimes I think, unfortunately, like, there's just a misinformation, or people that are kind of sometimes put in a spot they're not necessarily ready for. And what I mean by that is, like, we can all understand dry van freight. I think we can all agree. General cargo, dry van is pretty easy to move. You can teach it to anybody. But if you put somebody into a flatbed freight and they've never really seen a truck, they don't really know what's required of it, they don't really understand how to tarp it, you try explaining that with like a more specialized carrier, you're going to get a bad name for that, and that's going to give a brokerage a bad name, because that guy's going to be thinking, well, why should I be paying him more if I'm paying this? It comes to that expertise and the level of training, I think, sometimes at brokerages. And it also comes to remember, hey, not everybody was born an expert. I can say
I want to get into two things quickly, two completely separate things, and they're huge topics, and we got to try to kind of cover them. First one, like you said, it just stuck out to me. People sometimes are not ready for the positions that they're in. And the immediate thought that I had after all these years of dealing with drivers is owner operators. So many of those guys they were company drivers. They know how to drive. They're the best driver in the world. They'll back up a trailer into any spot. They're the best driver in America. They become an owner operator. They have no clue what they're doing. They don't know how to book loads. They don't know how to quote freight. They don't know how to talk nicely to brokers. They don't understand the business side of being an owner operator. And those are the guys that are like, I'm not moving my truck for less than $9 a mile. And those are the guys that hate brokers, and they don't understand the business side of being an owner operator. So let's get that out of the way. Let's just say it how it is. Some owner operators have no clue what they're doing. Like, and then we'll flip over to this now. This is the second part of it. We have Troy saying offshoring is the issue with carriers. And to a point, yeah, okay. We've all seen terrible offshoring operations, but I mean, I'm literally living in a country that's offshoring logistics, and there's a lot of good ones, bro. Like, there's more good than there is bad, right?
I mean, if we were to go down to offshoring, we can't say that offshoring is bad. A lot of the cars here that we drive in the U.S. are offshored. I mean, you look at.
I mean, let's go left to right. Let's go left to right here. Shimmy, what is your opinion? Not like a long, like more like a yes or a no. Like, is offshoring a good or a bad idea to you? What's your general? Are you for it? Are you against it? What are you kind of?
I mean,
what's your stance on
it? If you're not screwing people over, you're good. If you're screwing people over, you're bad. I don't care where you're at. I don't care where you're at. If you're here, I mean, it just really just don't screw me over. Don't screw other people over. I don't care where you are.
I mean, there's the internet and there's a computer, and you can kind of you just need a phone and the internet, right? So it doesn't really matter. And that's the thing.
If your customers and your carriers that you work with don't have an issue with it, then it doesn't bother me, because it's not my carriers, it's not my customers. My carriers, my customers don't want to work with people that aren't here, that are available to, that aren't available to them. So there's obviously, I mean, there's somebody for everybody. So it doesn't affect me. I don't care.
I mean, I think it's always funny in the story when Americans who live in America and work in freight say like offshoring is the worst idea and it should be illegal. And then they're like, oh, hey guys, I'm on vacation for a month and I'm working from the middle of nowhere in this beautiful cafe. And then I laugh because
whoa, watch your damn mouth, all right?
Hey, I'm also American. My mom's American. I can be an American. Don't worry. Right. But I think it's funny when the people that say offshoring is the worst thing to happen in the industry, and then you see them for like a month working in the middle of nowhere, Colombia, or like some crazy place. And then it's okay that they can work remotely, but it's not okay if other people are doing it. I mean, Alex, what's your opinion with, your
some of the best operations? And I would say, no, it's not the worst thing that's happened. I mean, we're in the 21st century, right? I think a lot of the people who say that have been in this industry for over 25 years and they're still holding on to like those glory years, which I understand. Change is a hard concept to say. I'm preaching all about change because I'm getting in at a time where this change is dramatic. But ask me that question 15 years down the line about change, who knows? But at the end of the day, it's a job that can be done remotely. The way I see it, all of our customers, let's not lie to ourselves. If our customers are looking to cut costs, if our customers are manufacturers and they're bringing stuff in from Mexico, they're offshoring as well. So why would it be a bad thing that we have to offshore? And then again, you look at the regular job. This is an office type job. Most people who want to work this job want to work 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. It's you put somebody in the US, tell them, hey, I want you to work from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. or from 5 p.m. to 1 a.m. It's harder to find somebody. But you offshore to a country where there's there's already a differential in time, and you find out, hey, it's 6 a.m. over there for them to start, 6 to 2. Well, guess what? That's perfect. Why would I not want to work with that guy? Because he could work my afternoon shift, and he's not going to complain about it being, hey, I'm missing out my afternoons, So that's where
okay. We'll go more in depth. Let's keep this topic. Let's go more in depth about it. Yeah. So Shimmy doesn't really care, just be a good person. That's just be a good person, do good business. That's her thoughts.
Yeah.
Diaz, again, just be a good person, do good business. Nick, what is your opinion about, do you care about it? Does it bother you? Should it happen? Should it not happen? Quickly, and then we'll talk about it.
It's been a part of this industry since I've been in it. It's not going anywhere. So what are you going to do about it? Just, like Shimmy said,
I think it's been a part of business in general. I mean, look at all the major companies in the world. They're using, outsourced labor. That's just what it is. And I mean, Darren, what do you think? What's your opinion? Yes, no, don't care.
Yeah, I'm sorry. A lot of you motherfuckers over here are sorry. I'll tell you the truth. I got guys in Ukraine that work with me, and they'll outwork any of you. That's the truth. And I pay them the same thing I would pay my agents here, but they just do a better job.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's the thing. Like the general topic, let's just get like the general topic is you have internet, you have a phone, and it doesn't really matter what chair or what desk or where you are sitting in that chair or desk, as long as you are doing the business. That's all.
Hey, and shout out Franklin. Of course, I'm going to get my 9 holes in if I have time. I'm still trying to fix my slice.
Dude, I mean, none of us work 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 or whatever. We literally are working all the time. So I don't. When people get upset because I'm sitting at the pool and I'm working or I'm whatever, even with my family events, we're always working.
I don't know what we do work.
And I think, at the end of the day, people have to remember we're humans outside of this too. There's other things we're doing. If you could work remotely, why not do it? I function better in the office, so I like to work more on site. But if you tell me that somebody like Alex doesn't need to be in the office and he could do it, whether it be in Serbia, whether it be in Italy, whether it be in the middle of nowhere, if he could do his job, I'm not going to care. It's not a factor as long as the work is getting done.
I mean, Kevin O'Leary, let's just wrap up this topic. Kevin O'Leary, one of the richest people in the world. I just saw a short of this guy. He said, I don't care what time you do the task. This is the deadline. I don't care where in the world you are. I don't care what hours you choose to do it. Just get it done and tell me when it's done. And that's, the companies and the people fighting against offshoring are going to go the way of Blockbuster. They're going to get left behind. And that's just my opinion. That's my 2 cents on it, right? So
that's accurate. If you're coming in as a carrier sales rep and you want me to pay you $100,000, any dick with a load board can book a dry van right now. No, I'm not going to pay you a 6-figure salary. Get out of here.
Yeah, but you just post the freight, you answer the phone, and you send out you read from the paper. Now that I've been a broker, I can laugh about it because that's literally what it is, right? You just post up the freight. You either receive a phone call or you make a phone call. You read a piece of paper, and then you send them that piece of paper. So, if you want $100,000 to do that, bro, that's kind of wild to me.
They call and I'm like, "What's your MC number?" I look at it and I'm like, "Okay, you're good or you're not. What's your rate? Whatever. All the information's in the load."
But all right, let's get into probably the last serious topic before we start getting into some, quick personality stuff. This is the last serious topic of today's show. How do we make brokers more accountable for assuring appointment times?
Call them out. I mean,
I left the silence to see who was going to say what first. I purposely did that.
Those goes.
Yeah. Well, I'll go.
Nick, I want to hear from Nick. This is Nick's question, so I want to hear from Nick.
The question was a lot more than that, but yeah. I mean,
the question was more than that.
It was a bigger question than that.
When he submitted it in, it was bigger.
But we already touched on it. So the start of your question was what type of communication can be most effective to get carriers in on time? I mean, we could start there.
Sure. No.
How do you get a carrier to be on time to your delivery?
So I think the carriers need to be doing their due diligence on appointments, just like brokers need to be doing the same, because as I'm sure you'll find out as working as a broker now, customers can mess with appointments, and sometimes you don't know. An appointment can be set and you have to go in and find out, oh my gosh, the time is now something completely different than what I thought it was. That happens often. So yeah, it does happen. And for carriers, it's equally as important to do the due diligence and check and make sure that everything's correct. But if a carrier is blindly going in, especially if it's with a broker that they haven't worked with before, take an extra minute, call the place, find out, make sure. You're going to have the release numbers or the POs or whatever it may be. Do your due diligence to make sure that everything's what it says, because sometimes it isn't I've heard stories of brokers, and I've actually never personally had to do this. And I don't know a lot of people who've sold an appointment as something it's not. I know that it happens, but
there's a lot of people that do that, bro.
I know. Honestly, this is me coming from the shipper side and picking back off of him. It's just being honest. As a broker, what the appointment times are. That falls entirely on the broker. So that follows me. Me coming from the shipper side, nothing was more annoying to give you guys a breakdown of how it worked, we worked shipping and receiving from 7 in the morning to 10 o'clock at night was our cutoff. If your appointment was at 7:30 in the morning, but you came in at 9:30, I was instructed that because we honor our word, I'm going to take you in. You're a work-in for me. I don't, if I don't leave until 2 o'clock because I have to unload a guy that came in at 9:30, that's fine. But I used to be upset when my broker would say, hey, when the carrier would come in and check in at 9:30, his appointment was at 7:30. I'm not privy to the fact that the broker wasn't able to cover the load early. I don't necessarily know that. But the carrier comes in and demanding, hey, I was told it's first come, first serve. I've been here for an hour. And then you tell them, hey, look, boss, please calm down. I want you to understand that your appointment was set for 2 o'clock this afternoon. You didn't get here until 6:30. I'm going to work you in, but it's under no circumstance am I going to sign off something.
This goes back to what Nick is saying, and let's let Nick kind of finish his thought process. No. His thought process here is that if that carrier had called you, the shipper, and asked, when is my appointment? And you would have told him 2:30 p.m. and he would have told you on the phone, I thought it was first come, first serve. And then you would have told the carrier it's not, and then he would have called his broker and they would have figured that out, right? So let's, like Nick, that was your point, right? That was like
yes.
Like carriers should be doing due diligence on their own.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, they should, right? Yeah. And so like you saying that already makes me trust you as a broker, right? Because as a carrier, I didn't care. I'm not back soliciting. I'm not trying to steal your freight. I mean, most of the time I was in a small company with like five to 10 trucks. What am I going to do? I'm not going to come steal your customer, first of all. And even if I had 1,000 trucks, I still wouldn't do that because I'm not a scumbag. But I don't care if you tell me I can't call your customer. I can't call your, shipper, your receiver. I don't care. It's my truck. You sold me the freight. I'm going to check before I drive 150 miles somewhere. Is my truck going to get loaded? Is the freight on the dock? Does the pickup number work? And if they brokers try to do this, they'll be like, here's the rate con. I'll give you the pickup number when you get to the shipper. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll give you the truck when you give me the pickup number because like I'm not playing this fucking game with you, man. And I mean, as a carrier, you need to understand that you do have, rights. Like it's your truck, it's your equipment. You need to check for, if you're a dispatcher, you're sending a human on a 3-hour drive somewhere, and you couldn't make a phone call to ensure that human is gonna, get the load when he gets there. I mean, I don't like that, right?
And I mean, to piggyback off of calling, I've been a shipper before. Sometimes shippers, and I say this because I've been in that spot, I'm not always receptive to take a call. My window clerk is not always going to be able to take that call, but that's where that trust comes in. And I believe it's also about getting burned, right? If you get burned once, you're not going to do it again. So if you have a problem with working with appointments, that's perfectly fine. You don't have to take the freight, but you also have to do the due diligence and have a little bit of trust. Same thing. If I'm a broker, if the carrier says, hey, how do I know you have this appointment confirmation? I tell them, look, here's the number, here's the email, give them an email, check in as Click Logistics, and they're going to tell you, hey, yeah, your appointment is confirmed for this time.
I mean, Darren, Shimmi, what are your guys' approach? You guys, like you like, how do you confirm to the carrier, their appointment times? I mean, are you okay with them calling to confirm? How does that kind of look for new carriers? I mean, I'm sure the carriers.
I know I'm glamorous, but you first.
I personally call the receivers myself to verify that the information I was given is correct, and then I give it to the carrier. And I don't take on a lot of new carriers, so answering it with new carriers, I don't really take on a lot of new carriers. But I don't if the carriers want to call to verify, that's fine. I've already done the verification myself. I want there to be room for as little error as possible. So I'll call myself even before, like I have some customers that haven't entirely booked a load with me. They'll just email and I know that they have 2 brokers or 3 brokers, right? And so they're asking all of us. I get the contact information. I call them myself before I even have the load just to make sure, because I want to make sure that nobody's getting screwed, including the carrier, especially the carrier.
I think if you're a broker who's scared of the carrier calling your shipper or receiver, you're probably hiding something. And at the same time, like for brokers, I don't know what you guys think this is. It's not 1940 Like you can just Google the name of the shipper and find their phone number. Like the best is when the brokers put their phone number as like it'll be shipper's phone number and it's just the broker's number, and then the receiver's also the broker. And then like I stopped using phone numbers on rate cons because shipper or brokers will just put whatever they want. Like
a lot of times we don't have it, so a lot of times we have to put a number, and if somebody's going to call somebody, I'm going to make sure it's me. If because
that's
they
fine.
Don't give it to us.
If I don't trust you, I put my cell phone number on it.
Yeah, but this is my point. Carriers are not even calling the rate con numbers. They're just going to Google your customer anyways. They're going to Google the shipper. They're going to Google the receiver.
Well,
there's no way for a carrier or for a broker to stop a carrier from checking themselves. There's no way. Like
put it like this, Alex.
Right, but there is a way for me to sue you.
No, there's like, bro.
I mean, look, Darren. At the end of the day, I'm coming from a shipper side. When the right kind of carrier came to me and asked me, "Hey, I would like some direct freight," I would be honest with them. This is where it goes in. I would be honest. Can you and your fleet cover 70 to 80 loads a day? If they tell me no, there's no point of in it, honestly, taking the conversation any further. And then when you tell them, okay, they tell me, yeah, we have 150 trucks. How many of your 150 trucks? So that's where you go. There is a place for brokers in sourcing that they have their value in that network because they can source 1,000 trucks if you have the right kind of network. They can make sure that your 80 loads are covered versus being a carrier. So you shouldn't, as a broker, like how you said, if you're afraid that one call to your customer is gonna lose you, then you are in the wrong business because your shipper, especially now, is getting 100 calls a day, and it really shouldn't scare you. You should be confident that the work that you're doing is the proper work to ensure that customer.
Most of mine aren't going to answer the phone anyway. They do it by email or text. So you didn't let me finish my thought. If a driver or a dispatcher asks me, hey, is it okay if I call your shipper with the pickup number? Full transparency, yeah. I'm like, well, shit, I want to keep this guy on this load. He's checking every box.
Franklin, do you call every shipper and every receiver to confirm appointments? I'm gonna die on that hill as a carrier for my entire career. I'm going to call every single shipper with a broker I've never used before. I don't care. I'm calling it. I'm verifying it. I'm making sure that my truck is getting loaded. And if you have a problem with that, I will gladly give you your freight back.
Zero problem. Just let me know first.
Yes.
And I'll give you the number and I'll give you the pickup number.
And here's the thing.
That's the thing. The broker's not going to do that, man. The brokers that are hiding stuff are not going to give you.
Yeah, but most of us aren't. Most of us aren't hiding. Most of us aren't shady.
I'm a broker.
We are.
Yeah.
I think experienced carriers know the receivers that they need or the shippers that they need to be calling to confirm appointments to. Experienced carriers know if it's a Costco appointment, we better know. We better make sure.
And
if you get there, you're screwed.
Yeah. So they, if it's going to a little building, if it's going to a shop or something like that,
facility,
then it's less of an issue. But I think good carriers know who to call.
But this all comes back to the whole work with the same people. Like I had a broker I worked with for 3 years as a carrier. Every piece of paper that guy sent me, I didn't even look at those papers because I knew every time that guy gave me a load, I would never ever have a headache with that guy.
Yeah, so, but sometimes you can't. Sometimes you just can't, man. Like attrition and brokerage, and you guys can.
Darren, this is the best point I ever heard from a guy that's been in this industry 40 years to this whole conversation. How many phone calls a day do you think your shipper/customer gets from other brokers?
They brought 100 from TQL.
Yeah, so what's the difference if a carrier calls one time to confirm that the pickup number works and that the freight's there? That shipper's getting blown up all day anyways, bro.
Yeah, and I don't care about that. Just tell me, and I'll be like, here, instead of calling an automated phone system, I'll give you the right person to call to confirm the pickup number with.
Yeah, but if a carrier doesn't trust you, they're not going to trust the number you get.
Well, you can't be a carrier and go through this not trusting everybody. Otherwise, it's not going to fucking work for
It
you.
all comes down to communication.
Don't book a load with a broker then. Go find your own customer.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck.
All right, yeah. Let's just put it at the end. Let's put this conversation behind us. We all have our opinions on calling the shipper as a carrier. I was a carrier. I'm going to die on that hill. Troy says everything's first come, first serve. Let's get away from this topic, bro.
I still love you, boo.
Yeah, that's fine. We can all agree to disagree, like adults, and that's it. Like no change of feelings.
Let's give it a year or two and see if you change or not.
I mean, we'll see. Like I said to myself in my first year as a dispatcher, I said I would never become a broker, and here I am. So I never say never in this industry, man.
Can we just let Nick read Les Mis the rest of the time?
All right,
I've
guys.
never gotten this many compliments on my voice before.
Yeah. I mean,
I feel like I need to send you money.
Nick's gotta make a Cameo account where people just pay him like $10 to read whatever they send to him, bro. Just send
Actually, can I do an automated email for prospects and just have you read it to them, and I'm just gonna put my stupid ass face there?
Yeah, there's probably AI for that. We could probably figure something out.
Yeah, we could just record Nick's voice.
Your mouth will move, but my voice will come out. Yeah.
Perfect.
Like on South Park with the
The first time somebody tells them they have a face for radio and they're not offended. They have a voice for radio and they're not offended.
Okay, guys, let's start to get to the end of this show. We got maybe 20 minutes or less. Hopefully everybody's cool for another 20 minutes maximum. We're getting to the end of the show here. We're going to get into some funny stuff and some less serious stuff, so me and Darren don't fight about who can call what shipper. Even though I'm calling your shipper, I don't care, bro.
We're not fighting. You're doing what I tell you.
Good thing we never worked together when I was a carrier, bro. Good thing you never had loads.
Well, I don't like double broker.
Yeah. All right, guys. I'll start with Darren since you wanna talk right now. Let's go. What's your craziest logistics story? Craziest one, like one that just sticks out to you,
Look at the border.
Was it a carrier calling your shipper?
No, look at the border in Mexico and throw a dart. I don't know. I had a customer of mine try and ship 20,000 pounds of cocaine across the border at one point.
A customer of yours?
Mm-hmm. I also had a customer.
Bro, wait. You can't what? Bro,
you can't just walk away from that story now.
Let me guess, produce customer.
Order it, bro. Like, what do you mean? What is it?
It was actually, Nick. It wasn't produce.
Wow.
It was like household goods. Bro.
So wait a second. So you had a customer, and he told you that I'm gonna give you some freight from Mexico. You just got to pick it up somewhere in America. And it was just cocaine, the whole load.
Dude, I did loads with this guy for like 3 years. Who farted? Anyways,
probably you.
Whoever smelled it dumped it, man.
I would have claimed it. Anyways, it was just like household goods, and I'd worked with the guy for like 2 to 3 years. Never had a problem. We had a truckload, and he got stopped at the border, and there was like 20 bricks of cocaine in the truck.
Okay, yeah, that's a pretty crazy story, man. I mean, I've never heard that one before.
I got blown up by Border Patrol, everything, and they thought it was my dope, and I was like, "Look, I'm a third party, man." Like,
yeah, that's when you said, "I'm just a broker. I have nothing to do with it."
I'm just a broker.
I don't know. I thought I was moving little stupid pinata paintings.
Yeah. All right, let's go. We're going now from right to left. Let's go in that order now. So we'll go with Nick next. What's your craziest logistics story?
I mean, you've heard some of my phone calls. Well, from the old days.
Yeah, that was the best, man. Yeah. The guy's just like, he's making a prospect phone call. He sent me a recording. So a guy that I also know is making a prospect call to a customer, like potential customer. And the guy answers the phone and he was like uninterested. He goes, "Hey, I'm a broker. I want your freight." And then the guy was like, "No, I'm not interested." He goes, "Don't you hang up on me. Don't you hang up that phone on me, bro." Like, so I like that.
Did you land him?
No, you know him too, though.
No.
Oh,
All right, man. What's your craziest story? Craziest logistics story?
So that
What's
same
the-
guy, the same guy who was on that phone call, we had, we were all kind of brand new to the industry, and we were doing, it was this was like the early 2010s. There was a lot of money in produce at that time. I'm sure there still is, but we were doing a lot of produce. And we had a driver, a nice Indian gentleman, who picked up a load of oranges, and he got halfway. It was from Cali to Arizona or Texas or something. And he got halfway there, and he called that guy who was on that call, and he's like, they turned into tomatoes. And he's like in Arizona right now.
Into tomatoes.
Yeah, he's like, the oranges are now tomatoes, and we're brand new brokers here. We're like, this is our first few months on the job, and this guy is freaking out. He's like, what do you mean? What do you mean? This is all supposed to be oranges. It's all oranges. He's like, I don't know. So he
called you and said the oranges are now tomatoes.
And so like he's already he's left. He's been out of California for a while. And he's like, okay, well, double check. And like, then he gets back in the truck, and he's like, now they're strawberries. And my friend was just losing his mind.
It was actually mushrooms, right?
To be honest,
the driver might have eaten some mushrooms at this point.
That's a hell of a drug, guys.
I wish I had a good. I wish the guy that we're talking about. I wish I had a good.
How does that story end? What was it like? What happened in the end?
From what I remember, the customer didn't tell him that it was a mixed produce load. He just wrote it as oranges, and so the driver thought that he was getting oranges because that's what it said on his Raycon, and then he opened up the truck to check on them, and it so.
Wait, so you took the seal off? If it's the same guy we're thinking about, it might be unsealed.
I think it was unsealed. Yeah, it had multiple stops. So
hey guys, I don't know the statute of limitations on full claim produce loads.
Yeah.
Let's stop digging.
This was like 10 years ago, so I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's stop digging. Let's stop doing detective work here, Diaz. You can go next. What's your craziest story you remember as a shipper? Anything, any part of it.
I mean, all right, I got one actually the craziest one comes from my shipper days. I had a broker send in 3 guys to the same load, and he did not know that he started a free-for-all brawl in my break room.
So a broker sent 3 carriers to pick up 1 load.
Yeah.
Nice, dude. Yeah.
Dude, it was the craziest thing because I'm sitting here, and now you know how
everybody's mad at you now, bro.
No, they're all mad at me because they think mind you, I'm the appointment contact. It's either my boss Reese or me in the afternoon, or my other, at the time it was Lupe who was there. And for whatever reason, my initials are on the appointment confirmation. They're like, they told me Alex Diaz. They're like, where the fuck is Alex Diaz? Mind you, I grew up boxing, so I always thought I was pretty tough. But it's different when you see like a 6'4", 300-pound guy named Igor screaming to the top of his lungs, where is Diaz? Where is Alex? And I'm like, dude, I don't know who Alex is, but he sounds like he's an asshole for sending 3 guys. Now I'm over here running. While I'm there, another guy shows up. My window clerk is checking him in. He's all like, hey, and then her being new at the job, she's like, that guy's here for the same load. Another guy comes in. So now I have an Eastern European, a Hispanic guy, and a older white gentleman. I'd like to say he was in the 60s, all fighting by like our little break room, our shipping break room, and it just caused a clusterfuck. I was stuck trying to like separate them, calling police, and all I remember at the end of the day was like, wow, he couldn't have just told them something. And it was just, I remember Igor, the guy who was like trying to kill me, just coming up to me because he eventually ended up getting the load. Because I remember the broker asked me, he's like, hey, who do I give it to? I was like, dude, whoever wins the fight, just give it to them.
Yo, bro, it's funny you say that as your story because so I dispatched the truck to a pickup, like just a normal situation, right? Like I got a load, I sent my truck, and then my driver, he was also like a 6'4" guy named like Igor. And I don't know, his name wasn't Igor for sure, but he gets to the shipper and it's supposed to be 3 trucks getting loaded with like, 10 pallets or 5 pallets, like 3 separate truckloads getting like 5 pallets each. For some reason, I don't know who set it up like that. My driver, being the smartest man in the world, told the shipper, bro, why don't you just put all 15 pallets in my truck? And this guy just he screwed 2 drivers out of a load, and he got loaded, and then he called me and he told me what he did. And I told him, bro, you better turn that truck on and not stop till like the next morning, bro, because that you just destroyed 2 people's like entire day, bro. So, I mean, but that wasn't the broker's fault, at least. Like the broker didn't send 3 trucks for one load. The broker sent 3 trucks, and my driver was like, bro, just put everything, make my load heavy, screw everyone around me. I was like, dude, you're nuts. I don't know why you did that.
And the broker's response in my case, the funniest thing that was like, hey, I'm really sorry that they threatened your life. We're sending you 2 pizzas for you and your team to make up for like you getting.
Oh yeah, that solves everything, bro. Yeah, fucking. That's like America's. That solves every problem in America, in corporate America.
You send me a bottle of liquor. Fuck your pizza. I live in New York City. I don't give a fuck about your pizza.
Yeah, do you still have dollar slices? I saw a YouTube short that there's no dollar slices anymore.
No, so here's
$2 now.
Now it's
$5
$1.50 slices. Yeah, there you go. And like $7,000 rent, bro. Enjoy New York.
Hey, it's still better than Domino's. I can promise you that.
Yeah, Igor would have to catch the fade, bro, in that situation.
Hey, man, you take on Igor. You take Igor on that day. I'll show you Igor.
And Darren was also trying to move bricks like El Chapo from Franklin as well. So,
you have to do what you have to do.
I mean, let's go to Shimmi. Shimmi, what is your craziest logistics story?
The craziest one, we actually had to sign an NDA, so I can't talk about that one. But
well, you just talked about it, so just tell us.
I know, right? Tough me. No, I had
just wait 1 second so I can put this comment so you can tell your story when I edit it. I can actually see you. So yeah, just like obligatory pizza party, corporate America, you know. But okay, now you can. So because when I come back to this,
said pizza, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry that you're the comment person. You're just like, but when you're telling your story, I can't put comments. So, what's your craziest story that you can tell us in logistics?
We had a dispatcher couldn't get a hold of his driver. I couldn't get a hold of the driver. The driver's wife couldn't get a hold of the driver. Nobody knew where he was, and I had a load that was missing. And I kept threatening, hey, I'm going to send the police to your house because it's an owner operator. And I'm like, I'm going to send the police to your house and blah, blah, blah. Well, he ended up being located in Vegas like a week and a half later. He sent me pictures of the load trying to say that he was near the receiver, which was in Oregon. But I used the geotags because I don't think that most people can realize that you can see where photos are taken and when. And I used the geotags to figure out where he was and then let the police know that we had the stolen truck. And he was in Vegas in a hotel room.
Doing Vegas hotel room, what stays in Vegas thing? Because that's a truck driver. Yeah.
Correct. And nobody knew where he was or anything. And
so what happened in the end with the freight? Did he deliver it or did the police come?
The police are the ones that found him, and he wasn't arrested or anything. He was allowed to deliver the freight, but that one was rough because you had a wife who didn't know, and for whatever reason, the dispatcher gave her my number too. Like, this is your dude. Why am I dealing with this? And
dispatch knew exactly what was going on.
But I used the geotags on the photo to figure out where it was. But he kept sending.
Wait, how long ago was this? Because I was gonna tell you, like, I don't want to tell you any of the specifics, but like I've had like 6 or 7 drivers over the years who have disappeared entering Las Vegas for like a Cali load or like
hotspot for them for delays for whatever reason, mechanical issues.
Because this, like, I've had this happen. So I've been the dispatcher many times. That's just like, bro, truck drivers, always manage to need to do a reset when they get to Las Vegas. They always manage to disappear or have cell phone problems when they get to Las Vegas. And we've had to blacklist many owner-operators and company trucks from entering the state of Nevada.
How is that a problem? How is that? Y'all stop dry snitching, man. Like,
Hey,
if you want to have fun in Las
your load's
Vegas,
a week
just
and a half
deliver the
late.
load, bro. Yeah, just deliver the freight and then come back and then take a week off, dude. Be a normal
But
person.
you already got, when he delivers it, you already got him on another load.
And Shimmy, this is about your NDA. Like,
No, that would.
I don't know. Is that too soon or is it funny? Like, is the P Diddy jokes funny now? Like, are we allowed to do that? Like,
Is it allowed to be funny yet?
I made him as soon as it happened.
It's funny that
50
all right, guys.
Telling you guys for years.
This is gonna be the last time that I run this segment if one of you four cannot make it, with an answer, because I think I've come up empty like 5 shows in a row, and this is the last time I'm trying this. And Darren, for the love of God, this is live, so please at least do your best to respect, everybody in this room, or I guess this, virtual room. So this is the segment that I've been trying to make work due to a friend of mine, and it never works, but we're gonna try it, and we'll start with Shimmy because I don't trust Darren off the he could be the last one for that. He could think about it the whole time. Let's give him some time to think about it.
Pressure. So, what is it?
Shimmy, this is the question. This is the segment that's been failing in my show. What is your favorite joke?
Oh God, I'm not allowed to say it on here, but I have my 5-year-old's favorite joke is, why did the cookie go to the doctor?
No idea.
Because it felt crummy.
Fuck.
That's
pretty good. That is actually pretty good. I never heard that.
She's 5 and she's funny.
Yeah, so. I don't mind that one because it's one of those like jokes that it's one of those type of jokes, but I've never heard it before, so that's great. So I like that. I'm actually gonna use that one. It's like it reminds me of like what time do you have to go to the dentist, and it's like tooth hurty,
I'm a huge proponent of dad jokes and cheesy jokes. So
hey, you're the first person that had a joke so far in like 4 or 5 shows, so like that's like a win. Diaz, what about you, man? You have a favorite joke that you can tell people? No, probably not. Nobody ever does. I mean, Shimmy did.
Adios, mío.
No te puedo decir nada sin no meterme en problemas. I can't tell you anything without getting in trouble, man.
English only, sir. I don't know what you're saying, and I want to make sure it's not offensive to the viewers.
I said I can't tell you.
No, but do you have a joke? Like, you probably don't. Nobody has a joke.
I mean, it's just harder. My humor is very dark and.
Okay, so you don't have a joke, End that segment with that joke.
Yeah, please just end that segment.
All right, Nick, man, I'm moving on. Nick, talk to me, bro. Tell me you have a joke, man.
Why do turkeys play percussion?
Bro,
because they have a drumstick. But I figured that would hit your chicken wing debacle too.
It's leading us into the very last part of the show, which is right about now. But let's hear from. God, why did you have to do that? All right. Darren, do you have a joke? And please, it is, bro. Like I'm being like the most serious I've ever been with you. Please don't tell a crazy joke, right?
I got one for you.
Yeah, wait. English only, bro. If you don't speak English, don't hire that person. Do not hire people that don't speak English. That is a disaster. Like that, I don't do that. Do I speak English? Yes, I do. Don't look at me, bro. Like, so, anyways, back to Darren. You got a joke, bro?
I am the joke, man. Like,
yo, just stand up and show us your shirt, bro. That's the joke. That's your joke, bro. Like,
I'm canceled, baby. All day.
You gotta go to the right more. Your name is blocking it, bro.
I don't even think you had this other one for like 24 hours before you were LinkedIn member.
Yeah, there you go. That's Darren's joke. Like that's the shirt is awesome. I love that shirt.
I am the joke, man. Like, I don't know. I do this shit every day, and I try and have fun. And logistics sucks a lot of the time. So you have to be.
How the fuck do you get that sentence from? Do you have a joke? This guy stands up and says, "Logistics sucks, bro." That's my joke. Like,
I am the joke. Like, I do this every day and have done it for a long time. That's you. I mean, you have to be pretty stupid. So evidently, I'm a clown.
There you go. There you
A
go.
couple-
He just insult all of us?
You are the class clown, and you have been, removed from certain platforms for being the class clown.
And I've even been called a clown by some of your favorite influencers.
Hey, that's a whole separate topic for a whole separate show for a whole separate time, bro.
Yeah, we're running late
But
here.
let's move into the very last stage of this show, the next 5 minutes, and we're out of here. We're going to do chicken wing choices, and just out of editing, because I'm going to have to edit this later, just for the simplicity of editing, I'm going to take everybody off and do this one at a time, just so when I come back to this, it's much easier for me. So I guess we'll start with Shimmy since we're going left to right again. So let's get back into a normal format here. Let's remove everybody else from the screen. And now it's just me and you to do the chicken wing choices. I hope you've prepared for this since you knew it's coming. Everybody knows it's coming nowadays. So.
I didn't prepare because I've been home with a sick kid all week. Okay, go.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess we're going into it, with how you would naturally answer it then. You already know the first question is going to be drums or flats.
Drums.
Ranch or blue cheese?
Ranch. Blue cheese is disgusting.
Okay. Breaded or non-breaded chicken wings?
Non-breaded.
Okay, wait, did you say flats? You said flats, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so you just got all of them wrong. That's good. Over 3 on your chicken wing choices.
What?
But just stay in the back room until we finish everybody, and then we'll bring everybody back on for the final send-off, all right?
Gotcha.
Thank you. Up next in the arena of chicken wing choices, we have Nick Balls. Just say it one time. Say the Alex, my guy thing. Just
Alex, my guy.
Yeah, there we go. Just so I have a clip of that later. But
There you go.
let's get into it, man. Drums or flats?
Flats. And hear me out. This is why. Speed. You can eat them much more quickly than you can drums.
Yeah, but you can eat drums with one hand, dude. And I'm gonna take.
You can eat flats with one hand. I'm telling you, it's faster.
No, you can't. No, you can't. Bro. Maybe you can. I don't know. Look at the size of you, bro. Maybe you figured out a secret formula here. But so we're going flats. So now we're gonna go ranch or blue cheese.
Blue cheese all day, baby.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I don't know if anybody's even picked blue cheese. I have to go back in the archive for that one. And breaded or non-breaded? I mean, now you're doing a fitness show, so
this is killing me right now.
Yeah. But outside of the fitness arena, would it be breaded or non-breaded?
It would be smoked and non-breaded.
And non-breaded, okay.
So smoked and then fried.
So you got one right out of 3, but we'll let it be there.
Oh, you like breaded? Ugh.
Yeah, the breaded drums, blue cheese, dude. It's the only way. But thank you, sir. I will bring you back on as well. Give me 2 minutes. Mr. Diaz. Oh, wait. No, we already did this, bro. I remember I already have a clip of you doing this. So.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to ask
if you want to run through it quick one more time, let's do it one more time. Drums or flats?
Drums.
Ranch or blue cheese?
Blue cheese only way.
And breaded or non-breaded?
I believe I said breaded. I'm going to stick with breaded.
You're going to stick with breaded. All right, yeah. So there you go. Finally, somebody with some common sense about chicken wings. That's great, bro. And finally, Mr. Karen Damley from These Lodges. Are you going drums or flats?
Drums.
Are you going ranch or blue cheese?
Neither. Fire ass sauce.
Fire sauce. Okay, but in this situation, you have to pick one or the other. I mean, I know there's 900 flavors of chicken wings, dude. I don't live under a rock. But...
No, I don't do either. Make your wings. Make your wings right. I don't need sauce. Okay,
so your official answer on paper is going to be no sauce, like a psychopath, because you didn't want to pick one or the other.
No dressing. The
no
sauce
dressing.
Is already on the wings.
All right, breaded or non-breaded?
Non-breaded, smoked.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Let's get back into everybody. Let's wrap up this show. Thank you, everybody, for being a part of this. I know it went on a lot longer than it was supposed to, but there's a lot of people, and it takes a lot of time to get through topics. And I appreciate everybody for being here and everybody for watching this. And I'm going to have a lot of fun editing this episode back with 5 of us for 2 hours of length. And hopefully it'll be done by Monday. But thank you again to everybody. We're all in a certain way. I'll talk every day, and I hope that we can do one of these every month, every 2 months, something like that.
Yeah.
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 Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having
me.
me.
No problem. Take care, everybody. Have a good night and have a great weekend. Alex.
Adios.
Wait, Darren, stay here for a second. Stay here. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Shimmy. Thank you, Mr. Diaz. I will see all of you at some point on Monday.
Bye.
Later.
Okay, so the original idea for this show was that Darren was going to come on with the ski mask and the shirt that says canceled. And I've made a mistake in formatting when I started the show. And so it was supposed to be like this mystery and this surprise and all of this. And then I just brought him on by accident at the start of the show.
Well,
so I screwed that one up, bro.
I did get canceled again today. So
what would you say to everybody watching this, to the community? Are you sorry for the things you've done? Do you repent, or do you stand behind everything you've done to be removed from the platform?
I would say kiss my whole ass. I don't apologize to anybody. By the way, maybe I'll just drop hats and t-shirts Monday.
Yeah, just start selling the canceled shirt, man. I'll buy one. I'll be your first customer, bro.
Yeah. No, I don't care. And to be honest with you, the only reason I do this is because you're a friend. I don't give a fuck about your podcast or LinkedIn or any of that. I have to do my job every day. I don't care.
LinkedIn is not a tool for networking for you. You're not worried about the potential of not being able to find. You don't care about any of this online stuff. You are an old school freight broker.
I'm just old.
I'm just old. All right, man. On that bombshell, I appreciate you coming by, and we will keep in touch about it.
I'll always be here, bro. You know who to call.
Have a great weekend, bro.
All right, brother.
Thank you to everybody who's watched this, who's going to watch this, who's still here. Have a great weekend to everybody, and that's it for today's show.